So I am a serious dork. I get sort of emotional watching that video, and I could have a selfie stick or a Twitter handle, and everybody's going to know that I'm still a dork. I find that really moving, and I could watch videos about our students and the stories of our students all day long. It is truly inspirational, and people say this a lot. I want to say it. It gives me hope for the future that students like those in the video and all of you sitting here are so dedicated. And the main event is about to come. I know what you're here for. It's to watch your loved one cross the stage and to recognize them. And that symbolic transition to the next phase of your lives and careers is important. It's a moment for exaltation and satisfaction. It's also a moment for trepidation. What comes next? It's different, right? Whether you're getting a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD, it's a different transition. But there is this moment of wondering, where does the path go from here? Not just for you, but for the broader world. So you may wonder, what does everybody do while we're sitting on the stage watching this? And the answer is, we think a lot, because that's what we do, right? We are all geeks up here. We think a lot. So I think about the speeches about the future, and everybody's talking about the brightness and the opportunity and all of the great stuff that's going to happen in the years ahead. And I think that's true. I'm not dismissing that. I think it's true. But I also think there's a moment of honesty is required too. And if you look out at the world today, I'm not letting you in on a secret when I say that there's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of challenges. I mean, you turn on the television or you sit at your computer or read the newspaper, we see violence. We see violence in our streets right here in America. We see violence around the world. We see racial and class tensions. We see an economy that's in a radical transition where the jobs that sustained working class and middle class countrymen are disappearing, and it's not clear how they're going to be replaced. We see environmental challenges, including drought, most obviously, but also consequences of climate change and growing population that are clearly profound, and we haven't figured out exactly how we're going to adapt. And you may say, my God, what's wrong with this guy? He's a real downer. You wouldn't be the first person to say that. I'm actually not, but here's the thing. I'm not deterred by those so-called crises. I believe each one of those is totally solvable. I really do. I think we have the capacity to address those issues. We have the capacity to overcome those challenges, to find solutions. Just like the name of our college, it would be disingenuous to say we were a college of community solutions if we ourselves did not believe that solutions were there to be found. I don't actually think, in some sense, those are the crises. Those are the crises that are the most beguiling. I want to raise two other crises, if you will, and put it to you to think about how we're going to answer them, and ask you not to be part of these crises. Ask you to be the answers to these crises. So one is what I would call a crisis of aspiration. I think we accept too much of the trouble around us as being the status quo and being unfixable. We accept it. We've accepted the fact that our infrastructure is crumbling and that we can't seem to find the will to invest in our future. We accept mediocrity in educational attainment for great swaths of our population. We accept it. Can't we do better? Can't we do better? Yes. Yes, we can do better. We accept shameful levels of incarceration in this country, levels of incarceration that eclipse the rest of the world. We can do better. We accept middling and declining standards of health in our country. We accept it as being the way it is. We can do better. We accept violence as if it were normal that there's a shooting in a school every couple of weeks. That's just part of life in these United States. We can do better. Now, we can disagree on what the answer is to these problems. We should disagree on what the answer is to these problems. This is not a partisan observation that I'm making. It is not. We also should not accept inefficiency in government. We should not accept that there's only one way to do things. Wendy is head of the Corporation for National Service. Why a corporation? Because she's leading the charge to figure out ways to mobilize the private sector in support of public service, not just the public service. Don't accept that the way we have done this in the past is the way we have to do it in the future. This is not a Democratic or Republican issue. It's about not accepting the status quo as the best that we can do. We have to aspire and know that we can do better. So when you follow Wendy's advice to create your own opportunities, don't limit the realm of what those opportunities are. Don't limit yourself to some version of the status quo. Aspire to do something truly transformative, and don't be satisfied until you achieve that vision, until we achieve that vision. Don't be satisfied with things being as good as they are and they'll never get better. You will never improve the world if that is our outlook. I believe that is one of the fundamental crises of our time, that we have given up on the big dreams. We have given up on the aspirations that have gotten us to where we are today. We need to return to that type of imagination and creativity in speculating on what can be, not what is. Now, I'm going to talk of a second crisis, which is going to seem funny given what I just said, because you would say, well, this crisis of ambition and imagination, you have to be pretty confident in your own ability, pretty confident in your own power to make a difference in order to fulfill that vision of aspiration, to believe that you have that power. And you do have that power. We all do. So now it's going to be odd that what I'm going to say, the second crisis that I perceive, is a crisis of arrogance. What do I mean by that? And I'll just give you the latest illustration, and I'm sure you've all experienced this. So I was reading an article about the tragic Amtrak crash in Pennsylvania, and I made the mistake, I'm sure some of you have made this mistake, of scrolling down to the comments section. That is always a mistake. But you know why it's a mistake. Because reading an article about a tragic accident where people were killed, the vitriol and the judgment and the anger, it just spews forth like a fire hydrant unleashed. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable the way in which our society has become one of constant judgment and harshness and diminishment of our fellow man. It is really, really disturbing when you step back and look at it. We've all become somewhat inured to it, so we get used to it. It's shocking. It's shocking. The arrogance that says that we have the ability to stand in judgment of our fellow man is really something that stops us from progressing. It stops us from progressing because at its core, this judgment, this demonization of others is fundamentally dehumanizing. We no longer see that person who we're judging as a fellow human being, but we see them as an object of scorn, and it diminishes and, in fact, eliminates our capacity for empathy. And empathy, in my view, is absolutely vital. It's absolutely vital. And I was really struck by this when I had the pleasure of attending the Tucson graduation with Molly on Friday. And our social work students, I think, have embraced this idea of empathy. It's at the core. But it's not something that's exclusive to social work. Empathy is key in public policy making. You cannot make enlightened public policy without having empathy for the individuals whose lives you hope to shape with it. You cannot have an enlightened criminal justice system without empathy for victims, for criminals, for the people who are in the communities affected by crime. You cannot have a successful nonprofit organization without empathy for the people who are serving and volunteering. It is absolutely vital. It is vital to all of us as we go out and try and serve. But it's important in another way. It's important for our own health. It's important for our own success. We have to have not just empathy for each other, but empathy for ourselves. We are flawed. We are all going to stumble. We're all going to make mistakes that we regret, that we wish we didn't make. That's okay. That's okay, right? Only if we hold ourselves to some standard that says mistakes are a character failure, mistakes are something to hide and feel shame over, only in that world is the risk of making a mistake crippling. So I suggest to you not only that you have empathy for your fellow man and woman, but that you have empathy for yourself, that you recognize that there will be stumbles along the way, and you should find strength in the recognition that what you are setting out to do is to help other people, to make a difference in the world, and use that strength to overcome the challenges that you will inevitably encounter. So these, in my opinion, are the crises that we have to overcome. A strangely paired crisis of aspiration and ambition, and a crisis of arrogance. And so I'm confident that if you can be both bold and humble, if you can be both strident and understanding, that you will not only thrive and live lives of satisfaction, but you will be the solution that we need.